On a Tuesday night in a small town in Ohio, a 34-year-old nurse finished her shift, clocked out, walked to the parking lot, and was never seen again. No goodbye, no phone call, no trace. Her car was found 3 days later, in a field 6 miles from the hospital. Her keys were still inside. Her phone was on the passenger seat, and she was gone. What followed was one of the most exhaustive missing persons investigations in that county's history. Hundreds of volunteers, dozens of detectives, thousands of tips called in from across the state. And for months, nothing. Just a missing woman, a devastated family, and a town that could not stop asking the same question. What happened to Sarah? This is the story of Sarah Mitchell, a nurse, a mother of 2, a woman described by everyone who knew her as reliable, warm, and completely without enemies. A woman who had absolutely no reason to disappear, and yet she did. What investigators found, and what they still cannot explain, is one of the most haunting cases this channel has ever covered. Welcome back to Plain English Guide. Today we are covering a true crime case that shook an entire community and left investigators with more questions than answers. As always, names and identifying details have been changed to protect those involved. This story is based on documented missing persons investigations. Let's get into it. Sarah Mitchell was 34 years old when she disappeared. She had worked as a registered nurse at Riverside Community Hospital in a small town outside Columbus, Ohio for 9 years. By all accounts, she was exceptional at her job. Her colleagues described her as the kind of nurse who remembered every patient's name and stayed late without being asked. Outside the hospital, Sarah was a mother of 2, a 7-year-old daughter named Emma and a 5-year-old son named Tyler. She had been separated from her husband Daniel for 8 months at the time of her disappearance. They shared custody of the children. By all accounts, the separation was difficult but civil. Friends said Sarah had recently started to seem more like herself again, more hopeful. On the night of Tuesday, March 14th, Sarah worked her regular night shift from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Colleagues who saw her that evening said she seemed completely normal. She brought homemade cookies for the break room. She joked with a fellow nurse about a TV show they were both watching. She clocked out at 7:04 a.m. and was captured on the hospital's parking lot camera at 7:09 a.m. walking toward her car. That footage, 23 seconds of grainy parking lot video, became the most analyzed piece of evidence in the entire investigation. Sarah walks calmly, no sign of distress, no one following her. She reaches her car, a gray Honda Civic, opens the door, gets in, and drives toward the exit. The camera captures her turning right out of the parking lot at 7:11 a.m. After that, nothing. Sarah was supposed to pick up her children from her mother's house at 8 a.m. When she had not arrived by 9 a.m., her mother called her phone. No answer. By 10 a.m., her mother had called 5 times. By noon, she had called the hospital, Sarah's friends, and finally the police. Officers initially treated it as a routine missing persons report, an adult who had not been seen for a few hours. They would file the paperwork and wait. 3 days later, a farmer reported an abandoned vehicle in his field 6 miles from the hospital. Officers arrived and confirmed it was Sarah's gray Honda Civic. The keys were in the ignition. Her phone was on the passenger seat, battery dead. Her purse was in the back seat. Her nursing badge was still clipped to the visor. Nothing appeared disturbed. There was no sign of struggle inside the vehicle, and no sign of Sarah. The case immediately escalated to a full missing persons investigation. Detectives retraced Sarah's final known route from the hospital to where her car was found. The field was located down a narrow county road with no security cameras and almost no traffic at that hour. How her car ended up there and where she went after became the central mystery of the entire case. Over the following weeks, investigators interviewed over 200 people. They searched 40 square miles of surrounding land with search dogs and aerial units. They pulled cell tower data, financial records, and surveillance footage from every camera within a 10-mile radius. They examined Sarah's phone records, her emails, her social media. They interviewed Daniel, her colleagues, her friends, her neighbors. Everyone cooperated, and nothing pointed clearly in any direction. 3 main theories emerged during the investigation. Theory 1. Sarah left voluntarily. Investigators looked hard at this possibility. She had been going through a difficult separation. She had financial stress. Could she have simply decided to walk away from her life? Those who knew her rejected this completely. She would never leave Emma and Tyler. not for a day, not for an hour. Her children were everything to her. Theory 2. She was the victim of a random crime. The county road where her car was found was isolated and dark. Someone could have followed her from the hospital or intercepted her on the route, but there was no physical evidence of a struggle anywhere along the road or in the surrounding area, and no witnesses reported seeing anything unusual that morning, despite investigators canvassing every home within 5 miles. Theory 3. Someone she knew was involved. Investigators looked closely at Daniel. He had an alibi for the morning of her disappearance, confirmed by security footage at a gym 30 minutes away. He passed a polygraph. He cooperated fully and consistently throughout the investigation. Detectives also examined a male colleague at the hospital, who Sarah had reportedly had a conflict with months earlier. He too was cleared. 14 months after Sarah's disappearance, a hiker discovered something in a wooded area 11 miles from where her car had been found. He called 911 immediately. Officers arrived within 20 minutes. What they found led to the recovery of human remains. DNA testing confirmed within 3 weeks that the remains belonged to Sarah Mitchell. The cause of death could not be conclusively determined due to the condition of the remains. The community held a memorial service 2 weeks later. Over 400 people attended. Her daughter Emma, now 8 years old, placed a single yellow flower, Sarah's favorite, at the base of a tree planted in her honor outside the hospital where she had worked for 9 years. The case was officially reclassified from missing persons to homicide. It remains unsolved to this day. Investigators still do not know who was responsible. They do not know how Sarah's car ended up in that field. They do not know what happened in the approximately 4 hours between when she left the hospital and when, based on evidence, something went terribly wrong. The case file remains open. Detectives assigned to it still follow up on tips that come in. Sarah's family still waits for answers. Cases like Sarah's leave us with more questions than answers, but they also leave us with important reminders. Trust your instincts about situations that feel unsafe. Share your location with someone you trust when traveling alone, especially at night. If something feels wrong, it is worth acting on that feeling, even if you cannot explain it. Small safety habits matter more than most people realize until they are needed, and for the families of the missing, closure is often incomplete even when cases are solved. What remains is the memory of who they were, not how they were lost. Sarah Mitchell was a nurse who brought cookies to work and remembered every patient's name. She was a mother who had recently started to feel hopeful again. That is who she was, and that is what her community chose to remember. If you or someone you know has information about an unsolved missing persons case in your area, contact your local FBI field office or call 1-800-CALL-FBI. Tips remain anonymous. Sarah's case number and investigative contact information are linked in the description below. Hit subscribe for more real stories every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Plain English, no jargon. See you Friday. This video is for educational purposes only. Names and identifying details have been changed to protect individuals involved. This story is based on documented missing persons investigations. If you have information about a missing persons case, please contact local law enforcement or the FBI.